The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the complete. He's crazy.
The other side, Freitas is on the grass on the infield for 4. He slides through. He tags Richard Neagle.
Three rounds at three very different tracks have produced varied results for some, but not for championship leader Johan van den Belt. An impressive bout of consistency and speed have put the Dutchman on a route to the top spot in the points. Will this be his redemption for last season's nail-biting loss? Today's race at Mosport will help answer that and many more questions as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Absolute Beginners Formula Neagle Cup live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth today is Brian Yazik. Out in the virtual production truck is our director Amjad Yaman, who is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Brian, last round was at one famous Canadian track, and today's race is at another very well-known circuit up here in the Great White North. Just a cursory glance at the layout and the topography, it looks very much at odds to Montreal. Tell us about the track.
Absolutely. This is definitely different than the other famous track in Canada. Right here at Mosport, 2.45 miles or 3.9 kilometers, 10 turns technically on the track. The Mario Andretti Straight technically counts as one long stretch, but they do count the little bends in there, so that brings us up to 10. And today we've got a 70-minute race. To show you more about how this track flows, we're going to send it to our lap guide with our driver Amjad Yaman.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC Skippy, so let's do a lap around Mosport. Turn 1 is going to be a fast downhill right-hander. Sometimes it's a passing zone, but it's a risky proposition to make it work. Plus, it's easy to get greedy and dip your left side tires off the track. There's only a short breather on the exit as you have to get right to set up for Clayton. This blind double apexer is tricky in normal conditions, but add the lift throttle oversteer of the Skippy and it can be utterly frightening to take on. Once again, not a lot of time to relax as you're already switching sides to take the proper line into Quebec. This feels like a late apex, but you're actually hitting it about mid-corner, and the turn simply opens up as you track out. Now, up ahead, it looks like the circuit just disappears, but you're actually going to fly down through 4 in a crazy plunge towards Moss Corner. This is a potential but risky place to pass with its short braking under compression and curved entry. Attack with caution. Now, there's 2 apexes on Moss, but the second is by far the most important. Getting a launch off of here will make or break your lap times, not to mention your race. If you're slow off the corner, it's a long slog up the Mario Andretti Straight, and you'll be watching all your competitors just breeze on past. There's not a lot of oomph in this engine, so momentum off the hairpin will be everything in order to give yourself more speed as you climb back uphill. Now, as we come up to the S's, remember that ambitious drivers may attempt to pass around the outside, so stay vigilant. The nature of the corner makes either side a viable option for an overtake. Finally, after the crest, you're going to stay left, then just lift and ease the car into the S's. Try to hug the inside of this first right-hander to set up better for 9. Then, make sure to stay as far left as you can for the best line into White's corner. Be careful not to clobber that curb too hard, then carefully let the car track out and finish your lap around Mosport. And that should give you an idea just how drastically different this place is from Montreal. All kinds of elevation change, long sweeping corners as opposed to those fiddly little chicanes all over the Isle Notre Dame. Well, let's go over the championship while we watch qualifying work its way through. As we mentioned at the top, Johan van den Belt, he is leading the points now with 3 podiums and 3 races. 54 points to his name right now. Tuan Tran had a bad race, and that has knocked him back quite a bit. 15 points back from Johan at this point. Pierre's Kaki doing a great job as a newcomer. He has 19 points back at 35 points in 3rd place. Wojciech Potacek is up to 4th at 29 points. He is 25 behind the leader. And then we go down to 5th. Eric Lukal, we haven't talked about him a whole lot in the championship, but still has worked his way up into 5th. At least it says Eric Lukal on mine. I'm seeing Robin Rosenvinge on our graphic. Unfortunately, that graphic that you see on the screen is wrong. Eric Lukal should be the correct one in 5th place. But we also, a new thing this season that we have, Brian, is the Teams Championship. And what is that situation looking like?
It looks like at the top of the charts, we've got 2B1 Racing at 59 points. 5 markers back from them is the 4X Racing team. In 12 markers back from the leader is Two Stupid Dogs Racing at 47 points total. That's clearly my favorite team name. In fourth, we've got Team I Racing Sweden, and fifth goes to Damaged Beyond Recognition, which could be the name of the autobiography from my road racing career.
I have to agree. I do like the name Two Stupid Dogs, and I still haven't bothered to get around to ask those guys if that has been inspired by the cartoon from the 90s. So we've got a few minutes left, and qualifying as drivers continue to put times on the board. They are out there solo, so there's no drafting going on, and they've got 3 laps to try and get a clean lap in around here, which shouldn't be as much of an issue because if you put a wheel off, your lap is pretty much over usually around Mosport. And speaking of which, some of the stories that we need to talk about in this race, we mentioned this at one of our other broadcasts, how much we love the old school nature of some other tracks, and this one definitely fits that bill as well, Brian.
Absolutely. This is not the newer fancy circuits that have a whole paved area. I'm looking especially at turn 2 with Clayton being in the corner of the name there. You get one tire off there, you are done. Plain and simple, done. When you go into your passing zones, leading up to Moss Corner and turn 8, Moss Corner being the 2 right-handers back-to-back, which is also in other broadcasts I've heard to be referred to as 5A and 5B. Also, when you look at your danger zones, like we've said, we talked about Clayton and Moss Corner again as well, or Moss Corner again as well, just because of those the quick apexes of those corners. You're going to end up, if you're not paying attention, you're not careful, and you're trying to be too aggressive, you're going to end up with your left front tire up to the pretty much the driver's seat of the car ahead of you. And then coming out of Moss Corner, you've got the Andretti Straight, a long stretch of track that you're going to get a huge draft. We're going to see these guys probably at the end of this straightaway hitting about 120, maybe 125 if they're lucky. But it sets up a huge opportunity that you can dive right into the S's and try to outbrake your opponent. Now, with that sort of mentality of trying to outbrake people and with how the corners are laid out, attrition is going to play a factor. How much are we going to see attrition play against our points standings? Who's going to be in trouble after that? And the other footnote here, Fan Belt has been on the podium for every race so far, so they're off to a good start. Tran, let me look at this note here again. Sorry.
It's okay. Tran, yeah, I feel like, and I mentioned this during the championship, I feel like Tran, as we see him on screen putting his qualifying laps in, probably would be a lot closer to Vandenbelt, who we lovingly refer to as the Fan Belt here on GSRC, because he had 2 podiums in the first 2 races, and he definitely had the speed. He was coming back through the field, but it was an early mistake at Montreal that set him back. He cut the course, and that caused him a black flag, unfortunately, in the first lap, and he had to come back through the field. And I want to say he finished 8th, I believe it was, in that race. I'm not entirely sure if I'm correct on that. I don't have my notes with me on that. But clearly he was able to keep up with the leaders if he hadn't have had those issues. So probably would have been looking at 3 for 3 just to keep him within touch of Johan Vandenbelt. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned the combination of Moss Corner, that double apex hairpin, and the Andretti Straight, because this track is usually seen as one that's difficult to pass on, or it has the characteristics of one that is difficult to pass on. It's got a lot of long sweeping corners, not very many long straights other than the Andretti Straight, and yet because of that long uphill climb, you've got so much drafting going on, it keeps cars together, and it produces some incredibly exciting races around a track that you would expect would be a little bit dull with its lack of straightforward passing chances.
Absolutely. I mean, and the thing is, you don't need a whole lot of long straightaways and little quick left-right handers and stuff like that to make a great track. I mean, drivers will tell you that they absolutely love this track here. And the Andretti corner kind of does kind of like what we talked about, kind of add that extra dimension to it.
Well, one name that we don't see as qualifying finished is Jonas Blixt, who showed up and surprised everybody last round. Unfortunately, it looks like he has not returned. We was hoping that maybe he could give us a good battle up front. But let's go through qualifying. Tuan Tran is on the pole. Johan Hallberg will start on the outside of the front row in second, with Johan Vandenbelt in third. Vincent Brame will start fourth, with Wojciech Potacek in fifth. And David Burns will start the race in sixth.
Seventh goes to Frederick Neptune. Eighth goes to Pierce Cockey. Ninth goes to Lauren Murray. 10th goes to Marcel Seidel. 11th goes to Bastian Huisman. And 12th goes to Adam Bradshaw.
13th is Gregory Caradis. 14th is Stephen Paul, with Martin Tilstra starting the race in 15th. Tony Hayes will begin in 16th, with Sean Reese in 17th and Daniel Holbling in 18th. Daniel DeVos starts the race in 19th, Strawn Wilkie in 20th, and we have three drivers who did not put a lap time in. Eric Lukel in 21st, Steven Inskip in 22nd, and Stefan Schmidt in 23rd. I see Lukel and Schmidt on grid, and there's Inskip, so all three will start. Lights are up. Tuan Tran is at the front. How is he going to be able to handle this with the pole? Can he finally get his first win in the series? Green flag is out. A bit of a slow start for everybody, but Tran seems to have gotten himself a good jump. Hallberg slots in the line, and Johan Vandenbelt all single file into the first corner, Brian.
All clear through here as we're looking into as they're coming up to turn 2, or Clayton for the first time. Tuan Tran maintaining the gap behind him. You look at Johan ran a little wide there, which allowed the other Johan to make a run to him heading up into Quebec corner.
And thankfully, it looks like everybody was able to get through Clayton corner single file. Pretty much it was maybe one pair that I saw side by side, but everyone was clean. Now we're seeing Hallberg take a little bit of a peek on the outside of 4 and then gets back in the line. This is a place where you might see some dive bombs down into Moss corner. But with a 70-minute race, it looks like pretty much everybody is being very patient. Ooh, might have been a little bit of contact between Lukel and Tilstra there. Now they head back up the Andretti Straight. Long climb uphill. This is where we're going to see draft battles all day long. Hallberg closing in on the back, but he lifts. Now this is where it's going to get interesting, Brian, is who is going to be lifting and holding behind? Because there's been talk about the possibility of a one-stopper. We saw that in the season closer last season. But we haven't really seen it attempted since this is, I believe, our first 70-minute race.
It's definitely a bold strategy to try to make a one-stop race out of this, because you're pretty much going to have to run that Andretti Straight half throttle at all throughout your entire race. But we're going to have, when we get to the point in the race that we're going to know that if it's going to work or not. I mean, when you got a 70-minute race. We get to that 35-minute mark, and we'll see who's still floating around there.
Let's go back to David Burns, who's got Fred Neptune all over top of him. Excuse me, no, that's Vincent Brame, who's got David Burns on top of him. But that was heading into Quebec. He didn't quite try and make the move. He just took a little bit of a look. He was very close, and now he has dropped back, so that battle has gone away. Looking through the field, seeing if we can find ourselves a battle. This is a very, very patient field for the start of this race. Everybody seems to have understood a little better about this being an enduro, and just about everybody has given each other space. This is very interesting.
Everybody's minding their P's and Q's quite nicely.
Now the fan belt is closing up on the back and actually almost makes contact with Hallberg. Now he looks to the inside, decides he doesn't want to wait around, and just backs out of it. Hallberg gives him a little bit of space, but now comes into the line down through turn 8, switches back into turn 9, and the order is still Tran in first, Hallberg second, and Vandenbelt in third.
Oh, I've got a car off track. Stephen Paul looks like he has run off in...
Ooh, that's the entry to 9.
Yeah, that's right before the S's there. Looks like the car got a little loose, and Kind of off he went.
It's very easy in the lift throttle oversteer of these cars. Let's see what happened there. Oh, it's the very exit of the corner that it happened. And once again, like we said, not a lot of runoff, especially there. And he went straight to the wall, not even a tire barrier to stop him. And they have no spare cars in here, Brian, so that's going to hurt him.
No, absolutely. Other leagues have a quick repair that's allowed. This league does not. And the other footnote to remember is that we have a 24-point incident limit today as well.
So drivers can't really put too many wheels off throughout this 70-minute race. I've gone a little bit farther back. Right now we're still looking at Hallberg in second, but we've got a battle for 19th. Tony Hayes doing what he can on Strawn Wilkie.
Hallberg's going for the lead. Sorry to interrupt, Joe.
Oh, you're right. Hallberg looking to the outside. Tran is going to try and defend. He could get it from the outside as he's about to demonstrate. Just about has it if he can keep ahead by the time they get to turn 9. It's going to switch back, and Hallberg with a brilliant move early on with still an hour and 5 minutes left to go. Hallberg to the lead.
That was a statement pass right there. That was Hallberg telling Tran, look, I'm diving it in here, I'm getting the spot, and I'm going to take control of this race.
I always hear some debate between drivers. As Tran takes just a little bit of a look down into Clayton, but decides better of it than to go too wide through this double apexer. But I hear drivers debate about, you can't pass around the outside of 9, don't force the issue. And that right there is a definitive, yes, you can absolutely pass, around the outside of 8. That is, yes, you can do it right there.
If I did it in a Camping World Truck Series truck, these guys can do it in a Skippy.
So Hallberg's still holding on now as we ride on board with our new leader up through Moss. Big crest over here. Just about misses the apex. Unfortunately, that's going to hurt him. That's going to give Tran a good chance to slingshot on past up the hill.
Now the question is going to be, is Tran going to hide out there? Or no, he's going to make the move. He's making the move around to the outside the same way that Hallberg got around him the last corner. Hallberg's exit out of the Moss corner is what really set him up to lose the lead there. I mean, Tran absolutely nailed that corner, and then you take into consideration the draft and the momentum. That's what let Tran just go right by on the outside.
And I tell you what, the fan belt is in a perfect popcorn position. We had a driver, I think it was Marcel Seidel, that had coined that last time that we were talking to. And the reason that we call it the popcorn position is Johan can just sit back, eat some popcorn, enjoy the fireworks with these two in front, and just hope that something goes wrong.
Sometimes that's not the bad spot to be in. Let's see, a couple of weeks ago, or a couple months ago, I actually won a race that way at Chicagoland in the oval side of things. First place and second place, crashed coming out of 2, and I just kept low and drove away with the victory.
Those are always beautiful moments, just laughing your way to the bank. Right now, Johan Hallberg is not laughing as he has been going back and forth to Tran, unless he's really reveling in this battle. Our top 4, you can see, all nose to tail.
And this time, Tran misses the apex out of Moss. I mean, is it something to do with being in the lead that makes you miss that corner? Because we've seen it 3 laps in a row now. Because here comes Hallberg right on the outside. I mean, copy-paste of what we've seen the last 2 laps.
It may just be the pressure on these lead drivers, just working a little bit too hard to get it right. Now, Hallberg, this time Tran actually lifts, I think, a little bit more and lets Hallberg through instead of trying to press the issue. Once more, the fan belt just kind of sitting back, and behind him, Wacek Potacek, that's the green and black car in 4th. You can see also trailing these guys, keeping in touch, although he's got a big slide through White's corner, and that loses him a fair chunk of time.
Yeah, that last corner, I mean, the way that this track is set up, it's very much a flow track. One corner leads to the next, which leads to the next. So when you make a mistake in the S's then coming out of White's, you have basically botched your whole run through turn 1 into Clayton, and maybe by about turn 3 you might be able to get everything that you were looking for back.
He's slowly closing back in. He's still got about half a second to keep with this leaders. I don't think he's going to be going away. And he also has his teammate, Vincent Brame. They are the Two Stupid Dogs Racing team. So those guys will probably be working together to keep their speed up. Whoa, big moment for Potacek down into Moss corner. I thought he actually put 2 wheels into the grass on the left side.
That's certainly one way to try to take that corner. I wouldn't do that.
I don't think that's the proper line. You can see once again he has lost some time. That's gone up to 0.8 of a second, and now Brame is within 0.3 behind his teammate. But the lead is changing hands once again. Tuan Tran around the outside. I'm not sure. I'm wondering if they're attempting to maybe go a little bit faster using the slingshot. We've seen them do that at Spa before. They're stretching away from Potacek, but that's because of mistakes more, I think, than the extra speed they're gaining from the draft.
This is really just a kind of a high-speed chess match. This is Tran and Hallberg showing each other, hey, look, I can pass you. And then the one will come back the next lap and pass him right back. I mean, maybe it could be part of a strategy play now that I'm thinking about it too. But the producer's telling me to take a look back here at different battles through the field. We're looking back on P8 would be Frederick Neptune, who's trying to hold off a charge from Lauren Murray right now as they come through the Clayton corner and leading up into the Quebec corner.
Lauren Murray, the car behind in white, Neptune in blue, appropriately. With those very flashy yellow rims on his car. Looking very Benetton. Or I guess we should say Renault, circa 05-06. Big wobble from Neptune down under braking into Moss corner, but he holds it together. Still Murray holding on. Nice clip of the apex coming out of the second right-hander of Moss. And looks like, though, he didn't get a very good run up the hill. Losing a little bit of time. Now that the draft is kicking in, he's holding on, but he's definitely not going to get a chance once they hit turn 8. A bit of an update as well. Stephen Paul, apparently we're getting information he has about 16 minutes of repair, at least from when he went into the pits. So his race is pretty much over at this point. He can only hope to maybe get out there and salvage a few points if other guys fall by the wayside. And look at this battle for 11th.
Sorry, Joe. I was actually kind of looking up Daniel DeVos. I noticed that he'd plummeted to the bottom of the speed chart, and he was on pit road for a long time. He actually got off on Clayton Corner and found the tire barriers down there, so he's actually on pit road right now repairing damage. Going back to what I talked about at the beginning of the race, you go off on Clayton, there is no stopping the car. And when he hit the tire barriers, I guarantee that gave him some suspension damage that he's on pit road right now trying to repair.
Unlike the changes they made in real life, it is downhill, and it is grass, and it's slippery. So the barrier is going to find you. Most likely, there's very few cars I've seen escape that with a mistake on the outside. Neagle is the car that was challenging Bastian Huseman for P11 that we saw on our screen, but we switched a little bit back. That's Gregory Caritas. He's battling with Tilstra and Bradshaw. Nice little battle heading through Quebec there.
3 cars underneath a blanket as they head off into the turn 4 and then down into Moss corner.
That's Bradshaw leading the way of these 3. Caritas closes up under braking. Am I seeing right that he's missing his front wing, though?
Yeah, you're not seeing things. That's for sure.
So he's been into the wars at some point, and I don't know if that's actually going to help or hurt him up the front straight, having less drag. There you can see the black and white machine of Caritas closing in using the draft of Bradshaw. Looks at the inside. Bradshaw doesn't defend. Are they going to go too wide through 8? No. Caritas backs out of it. The Greek trying to pressurize the British driver, seeing if he can get anything out of him. Still very close behind.
Bradshaw's also missing his front wing, now that I look at it as well.
Yeah, so that should be about even, I guess. These two are closing up a little bit on Tony Hayes ahead of them in 14th. Wow, trying to go too wide down through Clayton. This is not going to end well. Can Bradshaw hold on to it? It's slow through there. There's a little bit of contact. Manages to hold on to the car. Impressive control.
Absolutely. That was your car is, they're coming back. Bradshaw, I had to hold my breath there for a moment because Bradshaw was going to have to face another run at, face another defense at his position right there.
Caritas, if you're wondering how he lost his wing, that's probably a good example. It was earlier on, and Bradshaw is off.
This is where losing that front wing is absolutely killer. He tried taking that same kind of momentum that a fully capable car would have gladly done, and he just completely overshot Moss Corner, which let Caritas go right by on the inside, nice and easy.
Caritas was aggressive, but it paid off. He managed to work a mistake out of Bradshaw. He didn't make contact that time down into into Moss Corner. But Bradshaw's battle is not over. He's side by side with Tilstra, and it manages to at least hold on to that position instead of losing 2. Now, we're getting information that Potacek has lost contact with the lead pack. And in fact, he just got demoted another position. He is down to 5th, and Vincent Brame, his teammate, is up to 4th.
Could be a strategy play also this early in the race. These guys might just decide, hey, you know what? These guys might up there between Tran and Hallberg might ruin their own race. So let's just stay back far enough. Clearly they're teammates, from what I can tell of the color schemes. But so this could be part of a plan, or maybe Vandenbeld, Hallberg, and Tran are just that much faster.
We haven't checked in on them. I'm going to take a look at our 3 leaders there. They are on screen. Hallberg is in 2nd, and he's looking to the outside. Looks like they're still swapping back and forth. So the order now, currently, with Hallberg just a nose ahead. He is in the lead. Tran is in 2nd, and the fan belt has still been holding in 3rd.
He's just laying back there and waiting to see what happens.
I really think that this is the makings of a championship run for the fan belt. He has been very patient. He's had the speed. He's been aggressive when he needs to. He had that fantastic battle with Tran at Silverstone 2 rounds ago, and he came out on top at that one. So, and he came out on top in the battle that he had with, although it was more of a strategic battle, with Jonas Blixt at Montreal. And here we're seeing it again. The thinking driver just sitting there, letting the race play out, knowing that he's not going to be able to get away from these guys this early in a 70-minute race.
Whoa,
and Tran with a huge moment. Still trying to collect it. Now he's finally got it together, and Johan was able to avoid him. Looks like he's going to be able to get past by turn 4 here. Tran slots back into line, and that could mean that they've lost contact to Hallberg.
Yeah, Hallberg has pulled a second and a half away from this.
Let's get an onboard replay from Johan, because, wow, what a view that would have been. That was heart in your throat stuff. Here's the replay. And just look at how sideways Tran is. And Johan, in the middle of the corner, manages to take evasive action and avoid him. That gold car must have at least a little bit of paint, because that was so close. At least a little paint from Tran's car, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in fan belt spot there, you really have to think, you know, how hard do you push the matter, and then you're watching a guy spin like that, and you think, great, there goes my whole championship run that I've been trying to put together. But everybody kept it off of each other fairly cleanly. I mean, and then the only downside to it is now Hallberg has really started to step out as Vandenbelt and Tran are starting to battle for position 2 there.
In fact, he's 2 seconds ahead. Now, we're getting some information that I unfortunately missed on. Now, it sounds like Hobling had a spin. Let's go and check the replay on that. Looks like it was in the S's. Oh, and he made some serious contact. There you see it. Oh, that was an unusual spin. Oh, I see. He started. I just missed the start of it. It looks like he started the spin in 8 and then finished, or in 9 and finished it before he got to 10.
It looked like a good old-fashioned tank slapper right there. Just as he was trying to save it, and the fuel was sloshing around, and that's what carried him to the inside wall right there before pit entrance.
Now, thankfully, sort of thankfully for him, he didn't hit the suspension. He just nosed it into the wall, so his car is Not going to win any beauty contests, but at least it's still running straight. We're hearing that battle for P4 is not over. Vincent Brame still trying to hold off Potacek. Potazek, excuse me. Have a fellow Pole to help me with my pronunciations this week.
Brem almost ran wide right off there at Clayton. He got very squirrely, or the car looked quite unhappy through there. And pretty much that's kind of what we've got at the front. Hallberg is pulled away by 2 seconds, and you've got Tran and Vandenbolt in a group together, and then you've got Brem and Potazek in a group together, and then you go back to 6th and 7th, and you've got Burns and Cocky that are together, and then it kind of breaks up when you get back to P8.
Tandem racing without Talladega, I guess you could say. Brame. Oops, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I suppose so, yeah.
We're back up to that P2 battle with Tran and Vandenveld. Off in the distance behind them, you can just catch flashes of Brame and Potazek there. You can see them, and they're side by side. Potazek is going to try and get that P4 back, and he does. Just behind them, Cocky and Burns also battling it out. Now, Cocky we're used to seeing a little bit farther up. P6 is not bad, but he's usually in the top 5. Right now, Burns is still challenging him for that 6th position.
He was curb surfing right there, coming through turn 10. That's getting on there. I mean, you can kiss him, but when you get that far up on the curbs, you're almost asking for trouble.
2 British drivers at a Canadian track, and Burns looks in the inside of Clayton. It's only a half-hearted move. Oh, and a big slide from Pierre, but he holds onto it just. Woo!
That's how you save a car right there. Wow.
I don't know how Pierre's kept that thing out of the wall, but it stayed on the black stuff. Still, Burns has not managed to get his way past. He is right on the gearbox. Is he going to look down into Moss? No, he backs out of it.
So he could have been backing out of it to maybe set up coming out of Moss, and then it didn't look like that was the game plan.
Definitely, if that was the plan, he didn't execute right. He did not get a good enough exit. He's still going to be able to hold on with the draft, but it's not going to be enough to bring them side by side by the time they hit the S's here. Meanwhile, it seems like Johan has decided now is the time to move and has taken P2 back from Tuan Tran.
Kicking up a little bit of dust coming onto that main straightaway. No harm, no foul.
In all this, it seems like Hallberg does have the pace. He's up to 2.5 seconds just about over these guys. He's been steadily streaking away, and this could be his chance for a win in the Neagle Cup. I don't believe he's taken one in this series yet. In fact, I'm wondering if this is his first race. I know he's run in the Tony Hayes Cup in the GT1 cars, which is another leg of the Absolute Beginners League. Now, it sounds like we got a huge battle for P8. In fact, yes, look at this mess of cars. Lauren Murray being passed by Neptune on the inside into Quebec. So that moves Neptune up into P8 and Murray down into 9th. Behind them, we've got Seidel, Huseman, and Lucal in order.
Picking up the action as they're coming into the turn 5 complex. Neptune seemed to take a very easy stride.
Contact at the back. Sorry, Lucal just touched the gearbox of Huseman. I don't know if he got any damage from that. Let's see if we can...
That's bump drafting.
I would
just
not want to bump draft in these
early.
cars. Yeah. Let's look at the replay. See if we can look at that contact once more. Just got a little close, got squirrely, and then held on to it. You can see at the tail of that train, Lucal in the blue, red, and white machine. And ahead of them, Positions look to be changing again, but no, Murray tries around the outside of Neptune and is unable to affect the pass.
I think Neptune took more of a defensive line into that corner and was going to... he basically gave the outside to Murray coming through that corner and decided to say... And Lauren probably very smartly backed out of that one.
We ride on board with Neptune. Looking back, you could see a little bit of a duck out from Huseman trying to get his way past Seidel. Huseman is teammates with... I was going to say Neptune, but that's not correct. Trying to remember who exactly. It looks like Neptune isn't on a team from what we're seeing, unless our information is wrong. Now, another attempt here. Oh, and a slide from Huseman, trying to hold on to it. Manages to keep it out of the wall, but he loses the position to Neagle, who moves into P11. Boy, it looks absolutely slippery out there today. I haven't taken a look at the track conditions. 98 degrees for the track, 72 air temperature, so not terribly hot. Partly cloudy, too. We're understanding that Tuan Tran has taken back P2 over Van den Belt. There you see Murray in his Stewart GP-themed Skippy. Sure, our F1 fans will appreciate that. Certainly seems to be quite a few F1 themes in this field.
Not a bad thing. The cars are kind of like the mini Formula One cars, so seeing some of these old schemes on there are really nice. Although I am missing the Eddie Jordan bright yellow schemes.
Yeah, there we
nice
go.
To see out there, but
need the Killer Bees cars.
Yes, the Killer Bees.
So we're still watching this battle between now 4 cars, thanks to the mistake from Huseman, who has dropped him back. Still, the order is Neptune 8th, Murray 9th, Seidel 10th, and Neagle 11th. Oh, and Huseman is off. Looks like that was in Clayton. Let's look at the replay, see what happened to him. And that was a driver error, plain and simple. Rear just coming through that crazy downhill part of the corner.
That part of the corner makes the car, no matter what car you drive this track in, makes the car very, very unhappy. So if you overdrive that corner, even in the slightest bit, that's what's going to happen to you almost time in and time out again.
Interestingly, he hit the inside wall, which I've done before. It's just a little bit more embarrassing, I think, than the outside wall.
No, the inside wall's better because it's more embarrassing on the outside wall because then you got that long slide to just think about what you did, and then you hit the wall.
Oh, yeah, that dreadful, like, here it comes sort of moment. We've jumped back up to P2. Tuan Tran is leading Van den Belt just by about half a second. These two have been swapping back and forth for much of the race. Now, let's see. We're just about the half-hour mark into this race. So we're about 7 minutes shy, is that correct? Or no, 3 minutes shy.
Oh, I'm thinking strategy. We're 8 minutes away from seeing if anybody can try to make this on a one-stopper.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was thinking about the first stop, actually. First of 2.
Or maybe 1.
Possibly 1. Well, let's see. We haven't really been watching super close to see if there's anybody who's been just holding behind someone and trying to save their fuel. I see that Potacek and Brame have been working together, but I think that's more of a slingshot than a fuel-saving effort between those two. Here you can see they're going to do it once again with Potacek moving to the inside of Brame. Two teammates very much trying to utilize each other to make this race a little bit faster, but they're still in 4th and 5th and have not been able to close on the fan belt. Still about 6 seconds up to that P3.
The other thing is Hallberg has really stepped out. We're watching this up there. He's got a 3.5 second lead, which is impressive because he's getting over the tandem drivers of Tran and Van den Belt. And then let's take a look back at P12. We got a 3-car battle between Bradshaw, Cardis, and Hayes. as they're coming into. Whoa, that was a move. He tried to come out wide to make the corner better, and he almost put the left rear tire off into the grass, which would have really made that car unhappy.
I think he actually did get a little bit into the grass, but these cars thankfully don't have too much oomph to be able to set him off on a straight line like that. So Carrot is still sitting in 13th. Still, though, hounding Bradshaw. We saw this a little bit earlier. I think it was these two drivers that were really just all on top of each other, especially Carrotus, who has been not afraid to get right up underneath the gearbox of the car in front. Which is why, if you're just joining us, he is missing his nose.
And Bradshaw is as well, so they're both been guilty of about the same thing.
Meanwhile, Hayes behind them in the popcorn position, just holding on, seeing what's happening in front of him.
I wonder if that's extra butter, or if maybe he went with theater quality.
It depends on how long it goes on, but he closes in down through turn 4, possibly unexpectedly. Weaves to the outside just to play it safe, and then eases off to try and give himself a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, he's just falling into line leading up to the Andretti straightaway here. I think he's trying to be smart about it, because the problem that you run into is when you're in Hayes' position, the two cars in front of you have nose damage or are completely missing their wings. So with racing and you go to make the pass, you have to predict where that car is going to be. And when you have a car that has no front nose, it lacks its downforce, it makes it a little unpredictable of where they're going to try to where their line is going to be. So you're almost putting yourself in jeopardy by trying to make a pass.
Currently about 30 minutes into this race. We should be seeing a few cars taking their stops. The only cars I'm seeing who have stops right now on my timing and scoring is Martin Tilstra and Stefan Schmidt. Stephen Paul has as well, although he's got 2 stops. I think that's more due to damage than anything scheduled. But nobody
you'd be
above
correct
18th.
in that one.
Yeah, you can see quite a bit of his front nose missing on that car. Nobody in front of 18th position has taken their stop, according to my timing and scoring. Sometimes that can be a little unreliable, but I think it's safe to say that's correct this time around. And remember, we talked about, I'm trying to remember if we've talked about it on air. I know before the race we were discussing it, but lap traffic could become an issue. And right now, John Hallberg is not too far behind Stephen Paul. We'll have to see if that 3-second lead starts to shrink.
Just going to depend on where he catches them. I mean, at this track, if you catch somebody on the Andretti straight, you know it's going to be perfect. But if you catch them maybe even leading into turn 4 and then into Moss Corner, that almost ruins your whole Andretti straight into the S's. So we're going to have to see where Hallberg catches Paul, because then the other ripple is you got Strew and Wilkie up there as well.
Yeah, certainly not far, and it looks like Paul saw him coming, eased off on the exit of Moss, and so it's going to easily let Hallberg by that first lapped car. Little ways up for the next one with Strawn Wilkie.
And that was like you said, that was the classy move from Paul there. Knows he has a wounded car, doesn't want to be a big factor in maybe costing somebody a race. It was kind of a veteran move right there.
Been taking notes from Bill Zahn, making sure not to get in the way of the leaders. Now, what's going on with Seidel here? Oh, he's taking his stop. Where was Seidel before his stop, actually? Looks like around 10th place I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing as well. Oh, no, he had a problem. He said he's disconnected from the race, but he had some kind of a problem coming out of...
out of Moss Corner. And that involved contact, actually, with Eric Lukol. He got shoved into the wall. Looking at the replay. Here they are, heading up into Moss. And this will happen on the exit. Lukol is the red, white, and blue car just behind him. See him look into the outside, tries for a crossover, just gets a little too close, makes contact, and right into the wall with the suspension, and that is race done for
I
Seidel.
want to point out, it almost looks like Seidel really just either didn't go or that car checked up coming out of that corner because he had enough of a gap that if everything was okay with the car, he would have gapped that run quite easily. But he just almost stopped coming out of Moss Corner.
Well, thankfully for Eric, it was just a light touch. You can see he's got a little wing damage, but nothing too severe. Fortunately, I think that's put him out of contact with the cars in front, with Lauren Murray starting to stretch away from him in P9.
Adam Bradshaw, Tony Hayes are on pit road right now as well. Just normal 4 tires and fuel for their service run, and it looks like Bradshaw, that car have a wing back on it. I can't see as he's.
He does indeed. And in the meantime, David Burns, who was battling with Pierce
Hallberg is
Cocky,
also on pit road. Sorry, Joe. Our leader is on pit road.
You're right. Antoine Tran is in. And Vandenbelt is in. All of our top 3 are in. Vincent Brame is in. Potazek is in. Everybody has decided now is the time.
This is going to make it very borderline to the end.
I was just going to say, I think everybody was given a go at trying to make it on one stop. Now, well, here's the interesting thing. Pierce Cocky hasn't stopped yet.
No, he's still running one more lap, and if the way that the timing should work out, he has run exactly half the race now as he comes into Moss Corner. So if he pits now, he should be good to the end of the race.
He is looking the most likely to be able to pick up a win on a one-stopper. He's got Lauren Murray also going on a single stop, it looks like. He's behind him in second. Luke will stayed out as well. He is in third, but he's got a little bit of damage. And those are the only 3 cars that we see up at the top that haven't stopped. There's a few others still waiting to make their stop. Gregory Caritas, Sean Reese. In fact, Reese is in now, it looks like. So does Cocky come in this time? Can he stretch it even farther?
If he runs one more lap, that's just pure insurance into the bank.
And
he's on to pit road.
34 minutes left on the clock. It's going to be very safe. Now, after the pit stops, Hallberg, who we haven't seen in this series yet, but should have some practice with pit stops, at least in the other series, the Tony Hayes Cup, did lose a little bit of time in that pit stop. Tuan Tran is now within a second of what should be our leader now. Yes, Hallberg moves himself up into the lead, and Vandenbelt actually lost time. Usually he's the driver to really do well in the pit stops.
Then he's fallen 3.8 seconds out the rear of Tran.
Almost, 4 seconds now. Wow, that is a big loss. Now, some of that could be the randomness that iRacing puts into the pit stops. That there is some discrepancy that they have to simulate real-life pit crews not always being perfectly precise every time. So sometimes you might get a bad stop, sometimes you might get a really good stop, and it looks like Johan may have gotten a really bad stop. Could have missed his pit stall. We don't know what happened. We weren't quite watching. This certainly has hurt his chances, although he's still on the podium at the moment. But that could change depending on what happens with Pierre Cocky and his potentially single stop strategy and how that plays out for him. Cocky is out in 6th right now.
That's where I'm going to keep my eye on throughout this run. We're going to look at Cocky and we're going to look at Lauren Murray, because if everything works out correct, they should be, if their strategy play works, they should be sitting 1-2 at the end of this.
That all depends, however, on the pit stop bogey for our top guys, though, because Lauren Murray is currently about 30 seconds, I'm seeing, back from the leaders, and 30 seconds, I think, is enough time for them to get a splash and dash and get back out. Cocky, though, is about 17 seconds back. That is going to be much more touch and go.
Absolutely. I mean, because you're not going to need tires if it comes down to 2 minutes left in the race. You're not going to need tires. You're just going to need that splash of fuel. So, like what you were saying, your pit road delta is going to be a lot less than it was just this last time.
I'm trying to see if I can dig up the information on how much they spent in the pits. I'm looking at, looks like they're spending between 22 and 19 seconds, depending on how long it takes you. Cocky, interestingly, is one of the shortest times, despite we think maybe a one-stop strategy. So maybe he's not going for that. Meanwhile, we're looking at the lead, and that is under threat with Tuan Tran trying to see what he can do on Hallberg.
And Tran backs out of it, coming into the S's here.
So, with this being the latter half of the race now, I wonder if Tran is starting to think a little bit more long-term. He's thinking, I don't need to fight. Just need to hold on and wait for a mistake, especially since he is not under threat now from Vandenbelt, who has fallen back even further to 5.5 seconds. And he's actually got some traffic that he's working his way past. That was Sean Reese that he just overtook, who was a lapped car.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Tran, you're sitting back and you look at that relative box and you see that you're 5.5 seconds up on your nearest competitor. No, Hallberg almost lost it coming through Canada corner right there. But if you're Tran, you have to play a little defensive here because, like I said, you've got almost 5.5 or 6 seconds up on your nearest competitor. There's no sense in putting yourself in a position that's going to cost you a race.
Especially if he's thinking about championship. You know, last race he lost a whole heap of points. At this point, he can't, like you said, he cannot risk throwing himself out of this thing. A second place is going to be a solid haul. This is definitely going to be a case of who gets the most podiums throughout this season to try and keep themselves up at the top of the points. And right now, Tuan Tran has his third of 4 podiums if he stays with us. Unfortunately for him, if Vandenbelt stays in third, it's going to be 4 out of 4 podiums for the Dutchman.
Still a lot of season left to go, a lot of race left to go as well. We're just crossed underneath the half-hour mark as our leaders flash underneath the timing and scoring or start-finish line and head off into turn 1. Still a lot of race to go. We've seen these guys get very, very squirrely driving these cars around Mosport, and it's all it's going to take is one mistake, whether it's right here through Clayton or leading up to Canada corner or the turn 5 complex. There's still a lot of opportunities to throw this race away with now 28 and a half minutes remaining.
That attrition has definitely taken its toll on a few drivers, not necessarily taking them out of the race, but we've seen mistakes from a number of drivers that have lost them position. So the cleanest guys have been slowly but surely working their way forward as we watch our leader, Hallberg, and second place car Tran go through Moss Corner, now onto the backstretch. We saw him lift last time. Is he going to lift again?
Stay line.
Yep, he lifts.
Yeah, he's well. No, he's going to make a run to the outside. Maybe as they come out.
I think Hallberg is just holding inside for a little bit to make sure that he's not going to sneak up in there.
Take the defensive line through there. It's never a bad idea.
Just some insurance once he knows that he's going to hold back. Boy, Hallberg really clattered the inside curve of 9, though. He's getting brave. And we've seen that mistakes in pushing the envelope have caused a few drivers to pay. So if I'm Hallberg, I don't know if I want to be pushing that hard.
Well, especially if this is his first race in the series, but he really has nothing to lose. You might as well go for it. Go big, go aggressive, go for the win. Show these boys, hey, I'm here to play now.
Yeah, no championship for Hallberg to worry about. Meanwhile, a little bit behind them, let's check in on 4 and 5. Brame and Potazek still nose to tail. I don't think this is a legitimate battle, but might as well see how these two are doing. They've just got Reese ahead of them that they're trying to put a lap down as well. Brame
Pretty
looking a
much.
little squirrely into the braking zone.
Yeah, I think they're just kind of following each other following each other around here. Um, they're really only battling themselves, and I know the number one rule in racing is to never take out your teammate. So maybe if they both have that sort of philosophy into it, that's probably now they're going to go 3 wide around the lap car. So I take what I said and forget it.
Well, I think this is them trying that slingshot method that we keep talking about. I just don't think it's working like they hoped, unfortunately.
No, because they just keep falling back and further back off of Vandenbeld in third there.
Now, we have to remember that we did think it was marginal for our leaders. That there is the potential that our first, second, and third place car could make this a single stop. They were right on the cusp with that halfway mark. If they had a little bit of fuel left, that means that they could make it to the end. There we see Hallberg in the lead, followed by Tran.
That's what's going to get interesting in this race as we get down to 5 minutes left, 2 minutes left, 1 minute left. We're going to really have to pay attention to see if there's any cars that their speed is dropping off, if they're maintaining, if those intervals are shrinking. We're just going to have to see. Because at this point, you're committed to the strategy that you've picked. There is no going back. So if you win this race or you lose this race, it is 100% on you.
Well, we could see some guys try and make that splash and dash if they see that it won't work, and then just try to put some hot laps in. The only thing is, you've almost always, is Hallberg going defensive here? No, it looks like that Tran is still not trying to overtake that spot. But I was going to say, if you realize that you're not going to make it on fuel, you think that it's just not going to be enough, you got to make that decision sooner rather than later to give you some time to make up for it.
Absolutely. As this race wears on, we're just going to have to see. But kind of taking a look back at battle for 8th that we're looking at, are these two just can't stay away from each other. Frederick Neptune and Lauren Murray. Murray looked to make a run on the outside going into the S's there, but kind of backed out of it. It could have just been a defensive line. These guys have been. It's almost like you got underneath the rear wing. You've got a magnet that's attached or that's trying to find the front bumper of Lauren's car.
Yeah, and that lost him a little bit of time, but he's going to close up later in the lap as they work their way through turn 1, now towards Clayton. Let's ride on board with Lauren and see what it's like trying to chase that car ahead. Here we hop onto the roll bar of the number 14. This should give you an idea of the incredible elevation changes that these cars go through. Now plunging down turn 4, blind on entry. You can just see far, far away is turn 5 that they come up to, and
Whoa.
Neptune makes a mistake.
I think what set that up is Neptune, as he was trying to get wound up for that corner. He tried to take a very wide defensive line, and I think he put a tire off in the grass out there, which is your race driver. When you hear something or you feel something slightly different, it completely messes your line up as he goes into Moss corner and just lets Lauren on the inside go right by.
It's not over yet as he's on the outside and makes it stick, it looks like. But am I seeing? Yes, we've got a blinking Lauren Murray.
That car is discoing all over the track. That's not just blinking.
That might be why he let him through. Being a considerate driver, knowing that your connection is bad, just not trying to fight too hard. So Neptune, after a mistake, quickly gets it back and moves himself back into position 8. And now it looks like Murray's car has settled down, thankfully.
That was an interesting lap right there.
For those new to sim racing, when that car disappears, it means that his internet connection is not very good at that moment. And the server is not able to tell quite exactly where his car is. It's usually considered good etiquette to not fight hard and let cars by if you have a bad connection, because if they can't tell where you are, you can't fight very, very closely on the track. Meanwhile, we've jumped back up to P1, where Tran is still just hounding Hallberg, hoping for a mistake somewhere along the line. So far, from what we've seen on screen, it has not been forthcoming. Oh, I love this angle. Looking back, now we're looking in front on Tuan Tran. I was going to say we were underneath the car there getting a good look at the suspension. Tran is not afraid to be right up close to that car in front and just play those psychological games. Still, Tran has not won a race yet in the Neagle Cup. Still looking for that maiden win.
Tran looks like he was using the draft to close out, but I think he backed out of it coming into the S's again. I think he could be fuel saving. He could just be riding out right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. If Tran was... Remember, we kept talking a little bit earlier about how these leaders were probably going to be a little marginal on whether or not they could make it on that single stop. Tran could be putting himself in a great position since Hallberg has been leading the whole way. He's sucking up more gas. And forget about Pierre's cocky. Maybe Tran is our likely winner out here today.
Yeah, it's something I hadn't quite considered at that moment. Tran sitting back there in second place pretty much this whole run. He could be rolling out of it very early. He could be trying to stretch that last little bit of fuel that he would need. Because when they pitted, they weren't that far away from being able to do it on the one stop. They were maybe about a lap short. But then again, kind of like what you said, Joe, is if he had a little bit of fuel left in the tank, and then if you can save a little bit, well, then you might be able to cross the start-finish line, and maybe it'll be on fumes, or maybe you'll run out coming out of turn 10, rather than running out coming down the Andretti straight.
Which you definitely don't want with it being all uphill. He's definitely been lifting. Every time that we've been watching him, especially when we were on board last lap, you could hear him lifting. And unfortunately, most of the battles are a little bit like this, it seems. Everybody's trying to play a strategy race today. I'm sure, depending on what sort of stuff you find interesting, not always the most exciting race, but it's definitely going to get exciting when we get down to these few final laps, because then we really just have no idea how it's going to wind up. Let's give everybody just a little bit of screen time since things have settled down and run through the order here. As we said, we've been watching our leaders, John Hallberg in first, hassled by Tuan Tran, potentially fuel saving, we think. The fan belt continues to drop back. He is now almost 9 seconds away from P2. I don't think a win is on the cards for Johan unless our first two positions run into each other or maybe even run out of fuel. Wojciech Podacek, is still in fourth. He's been swapping positions with our fifth place driver, Vincent Brame. We expect that to continue on with these two being teammates. Pierre's cocky. We've had our eye on him. He's done a single stop, but he was a lap later than everybody else. He's sitting in sixth right now. David Burns was battling with him. You might have seen a little bit earlier on that it looked like he had a little bit of damage, but that was incorrect. I think that's fixed now. Yes, his car looks nice and clean, and he is in seventh. Frederick Neptune, we've been watching him every once in a while. He's getting ready to put a lap on Sean Reese, who has been going down the order. But Neptune in eighth, and Lauren Murray, who has been threatening him, is sitting in ninth. And then rounding out our top 10 is Eric Lukal. What is it looking like behind that, Brian?
Behind that, you've got Adam Bradshaw running in 11th, Gregory Caritas in 12th, and then the aforementioned Sean Reese, one lap down in 13th. Daniel Hobling, one lap down in 14th. 15th is Martin
Tilstra.
Tilstra. Thank you. In 16th, we've got Struan Wilkie. 17th, it goes to Stefan Schmidt. 18th to Stephen Paul. 19th to Bastian Huisman. And then in 20th, Tony Hayes. 21st, Marcel Seidel. 22nd, Daniel DeVos. And then 23rd on your scoring will be Steven Inskip, but I don't believe he started the race.
I think Inskip did. I thought I saw him on the grid. Possibly not. We'll have to double check that. But actually, Hayes, Seidel, DeVos, and Inskip are out of the race currently. Bastian Huisman currently the last one out there, and Huisman is off the track actually, trying to hold on to it through Moss. Manages to keep it out of the wall as Vandenbelt works his way past. Scary moment. I think Huisman gets our Dory Award of the day. 13 laps down, still out there, hoping to get himself some points.
He had a moment coming off of turn 4, and that didn't end until he came out of the Moss corner.
Certainly was a scary one. We've gone back to P4, where once again Potazek and Brame are swapping positions. Potazek back up to 4th.
You'd have to think if you pay attention to the relative and you're not gaining any time. I mean, when do you abandon this theory here?
I don't know. It could be something where, well, they're not saving fuel. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're just not looking close enough there. Maybe they actually are battling. We're just assuming wrong. They're having fun.
Yeah, I mean, when you got no one in front of you by 9 seconds and no one behind you for 8 seconds, yeah, might as well have a little bit of fun with your teammate.
And actually, it's about 5 seconds back to Pierre's Cocky. Has he been gaining? I'm not entirely sure. Let's look at Pierre's Cocky's laps and see what he's been doing.
He has been gaining over the last couple laps. That gap's down to 5 seconds.
So these guys, now there is reason to be concerned, I would say, for Brame and Potazek. If they look back, not just looking forward at the timing and scoring, but back on their F3 box to Pierre's Cocky and seeing, oh boy, we've got 6th place actually gaining on us, and they've got 14 minutes left in this race. So they could lose out. We could have a 3rd car in this battle for P4. There you can see just off in the background was Pierre's Cocky in that dark blue machine.
We'll have to keep an eye on that as this race winds down over the final 13 and a half minutes roughly.
The other question, too, is when does Tuan Tran go? He's been holding behind. He's been potentially saving fuel. He's been lifting as they come up to turn 8 pretty much every lap, not attacking Hallberg. At what point do you say, now is when I attack? Because it's not like some draft tracks where it's really a slam dunk that you can get on by with that draft. You could get a bad exit out of Moss. The other driver might defend down into turn 8. You don't know for sure that you're going to get it. Do you go with 2 laps to go, 3 laps to go? Do you go into the last lap?
The last lap doesn't give you a whole lot of time because if you said, I think if you're in Tran's spot and you get a good run off of the Moss corners anywhere underneath 5 to go, you go for it. We've seen that he can pass on the outside with absolutely no fear multiple times at the start of this race. So if he gets that good run off of corner 5, he can carry that momentum and that draft all the way up and ready, and we know he can put it right on the outside of Hallberg.
Let's jump a little bit farther down the order. In fact, they're almost going to be put a lap down here. Eric Lukal and Adam Bradshaw looking for that 10th position. There's about half a second between them now, but Lukal's been hassling them, and these two have fought for a little bit after Bradshaw made a mistake a little bit earlier in the race. I think Lukal did too at some point. Didn't we see that?
I believe you're right, yes.
Lost a little bit of ground in this first part of the lap, trying to get right back up on Adam Bradshaw. British driver trying to hold off the Diach driver. Neagle, I'm going to assume, is German. That could be incorrect, though, just going off the name. Gets a great run coming off of Moss. Down to 3/10, and he's going to get a good opportunity if he wants to take it to try and get into the top 10. You can see a little bit of damage on the front wing of Neagle. Not able to close up enough. In fact, I think he might have lifted, so it looks like he's electing to wait a little bit longer before going on the attack here.
Well, these last 5 laps are going to be nuts if everybody's been lifting this whole time coming into turn 8.
And notice we haven't had anybody in the top cars to take their second stop. In fact, the only car I can see is Sean Reese has 2 stops and Tilstra has 2 stops. Everybody else is on 1 stop other than Stephen Paul, who was on 3 due to some damage very early on in the race. It's almost feeling more like a Formula E race where we're waiting for the final laps to really kick in with everybody just hitting go and trying to go on the attack.
Talking about Pierce Cockey back there, he's closed up another second on Brandon Podizek.
Could it be too little too late? Does he have enough? He puts a lap on Strawn Wilkie, who Wilkie goes into the wall! And just a couple taps, and now for sure he's nosed it in. Oh.
It was going to be okay until it nosed into the the wall there.
We're going to watch on the replay. This is a case of, I got it, I don't got it, I got it, nope, I don't got it. And unfortunately, I think that was, nobody did anything wrong there. I think that was just a case of he was on a line that he wasn't used to and just was shook up by Pierre's going inside and lapping him.
It's like I said, it's a very rhythm-sensitive racetrack, so you put yourself out there just trying to be courteous, and you might find yourself like Wilkie there, nose against the inside wall.
Sad to see, since he was doing decently. He was going a lap down, but he wasn't having a bad race by any means. Meanwhile, we've jumped back up to that battle for P10. Bradshaw still leading Neagle.
Well, he's taking a nice clean line through Canada corner. No issues there.
I think that was Quebec corner, actually.
Quebec?
Part of Canada. So I guess technically it's technically Canada corner.
I'm half right.
I guess you could say all the corners are Canada corner.
And that makes me sad because I've been calling it Canada corner this whole race, I think.
I didn't. Well, shows you how close I've been paying attention. I didn't even notice that.
See, that's why I've got to make my little track guides bigger.
There we go.
And if you look just beyond this battle for 10th, you're going to find our leaders. As you're watching Neagle drive off into turn 8 right now, and not much farther behind them is you're going to find Hallberg and you're going to find Tran.
See, now, depending on what those two do, because they're in their own battle, I don't think they're going to want to lift, because then especially Bradshaw, he could lose a position, or Neagle could lose the draft. So these guys aren't want to give up too much, and that could be something critical for Tuan Tran or Johan Hallberg, because if they go on the attack, if they try to make themselves put some space between himself and Tran, then that could give him an opportunity to start to stretch away, get away from that draft before the final laps, and not have the threat of that last lap snipe.
Absolutely. I mean, we're getting down to the 7-minute mark left in this race, which at these lap times, you're looking at roughly 4 or 5 to go right now. So if you're Tran, you've got to start plotting your move now versus later.
Oh, and critically, though, Neagle has dropped off of Bradshaw. So maybe it'll... Whoa, and Neagle has a moment coming through Moss, going very sideways, but does a beautiful job holding the car together and keeping it off of the curb on the outside. But he's lost the draft, I think, off of Bradshaw.
More importantly, he's fallen back enough to where Hallberg is picking up his draft and keeping Tran at bay a little bit better. This is what I was talking about. If you wait too long, you're going to set yourself up.
Are they going to have a car in between them? Is Tran going to sneak to the inside? Just manages to get in there to try to hold on. And credit to Neagle seeing it coming and letting them through. So sadly for poor Eric Neagle in P11, he is now 2 seconds behind Bradshaw. Unless he can follow these guys through with the draft to try and close back up on his competitor, he might have lost his opportunity to get into the top 10.
It's a shame when you get punished for doing the right thing.
Yeah, but you know, the leaders battle, even though it's definitely an important battle, every position matters. I think the leaders maybe hold a little bit more weight here than those guys, so he probably did the right thing.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Now we're going to get to see what Bradshaw does. Maybe Neagle's thinking Bradshaw is going to do the same thing, which if he fell 2 seconds back by staying out of the way, maybe Bradshaw will fall 2 seconds back and they'll be right back connected again.
We get a good look right here. Hallberg has the draft on Bradshaw. Looks like he's going to be able to get him on the backstretch. Tran might be a little bit more of a tall order. He's a little far back. He's about half a second away. He's staying within the draft of Hallberg instead of switching over. And he does lift. He does let him through. Now what's the gap between those two? It's gone down to about 1.5 seconds. So Bradshaw lost a little bit, but not as much as Neagle did, sadly.
Yeah, because I think Neagle got out of the way as they were coming down to the coming through turn 4. I was watching Tran there for a second. I almost looked like that car jumped the curb and got way out of shape. But with Bradshaw falling back, he did it at a more convenient time. Hallberg is in the grass a little bit, putting 2 tires off, which is going to set the way for Tran to make a move as they go into as Clayton.
And that was Stephen Paul that they had to work their way past on top of it. I wonder if that caused Tran. He saw him ahead and decided not to try and go 3 wide through Clayton, let alone 2. Now, what happened to Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt is in the pits. He makes a splash and dash. He can't make it to the end.
No, and he pitted on the same lap as Hallberg, I believe, and Tran.
And critically, Cocky is by him. That gives us an indication of what's going to happen to our leaders if they have to make that splash and dash.
This is going to get interesting. 3.5 minutes left in this race. Pierce Cocky on the clear one-stop strategy, and he's found himself in a position to strike. He is 30 seconds back. That's what's going to be interesting to see if he can make up that time with the deltas.
I don't think that's going to be enough with him taking full fuel. It was about 20 seconds, so he's going to be just a little bit too far back. He does have enough to get by Vandenbelt, but the Vandenbelt has only 3 seconds to make up. If he can push faster than Cocky can, he could still get back into that top 5. Remember, the Vandenbelt has not been off the podium yet. Now, the battle between Hallberg and Tran is not over as Tran looks to the inside of turn 1 but backs out of it.
But he's trying to find a spot to make that work, or he's just trying to make it wait for as long as the run of the possible. Trying to make a run again as they're going to make the run up to Clayton. Tran looking on the outside, wisely decides to fall back in line, setting the run up, maybe going to make a run into Quebec corner. Got that naming right for the first time today.
Tran still single file. This is our battle for the lead as we ride on the roll bar of Tran as Hallberg goes a little bit wide on the exit. Tran with a good push off the corner, but it's not enough as they hit 4.
Trying to double back, and he's going to try to come back to the inside. No, he fell back right back in line. Hallberg had the definite good position through that corner as they come through Moss corner one more time.
The patience of our viewers is paying off as now in the final minutes of this race, the attack is on. Tuan Tran, does he lift this time? Does he go for it? He's got a beautiful run. It's not going to be a lift this time, and in fact, he is going to go clear on past.
There was no question there. That was a power move from Tran.
I think he just plain got a better run. I don't think that was even the draft that allowed him past.
That's what I was talking about. You wait till you get that good run off of corner 5, and you take that opportunity to get the momentum to go around.
Now, is this going to be enough time for 2 more laps, or is it 1 more lap? Because that could affect their fuel strategy as well. Are they expecting, oh, it's going to be oh so close. I think this is the final lap, actually. I think this should be it, because they're running about 130s, and they crossed the line at about 125. Now, do they have enough left? That's a big question. If they don't, they're committed at this point with a white flag potentially out.
Potazek is on pit road as well.
Oh, Potazek couldn't make it. Pierre Skaki is going to go on by him. Vincent Brame, though, elects to go on. Kaki up into 4th. A great strategy call by Kaki. Now, wait, where is Hallberg? Hallberg is 2 seconds off of Tran.
Hallberg's, I think, out of fuel. He is coasting through the downhill part here.
Tran, by holding back, has allowed himself to possibly win this race here. Does Tran have enough?
Yeah, Hallberg is sputtering coming up Andretti straightaway.
Oh, what looked like a potential win. Vincent Brame is a long ways back, but Brame could move himself up into 2nd.
Tran looks like he is full on the loud pedal. There's no backing off here for him.
Tran with 3 more corners to go, coming through 8. Fast right-hander, gonna switch back. A little bit slower into 9, and then finally the slowest of the 3 through white corner, coming to the line. He is gonna make it, definitely has enough fuel. Tuan Tran takes his maiden win here at Mosport in the absolute beginners Formula Neagle Cup. Hallberg trying to get to the line. He has 3 more corners to go. Where is Brame? Brame is gonna overtake him. Brame takes 2nd. With 2 corners left. A beautiful run, beautiful strategy call for Brame. Does Brame have enough? I thought he slowed for a second. Yes, he does. Brame takes 2nd place. Hallberg trying to get to the line. Does he have enough? Here comes Johan van der Velde. He is going to be on the podium for 3rd place at the line. What about Pierre Skaki? And Pierre Skaki takes 4th. Just ahead of Hallberg. Oh,
Pierce Kaki
heartbreak
also
for
had a
Hallberg.
huge moment coming through turn 5. He actually spun out leading up to that. That's what allowed Vandenbeld to get back around him.
Oh, boy. Hallberg has got to be ruining that decision to lead the entire last half of the race. I think that has cost him not only 4th, not only 2nd, not only 3rd, not only 4th, but all the way down to 5th. Whew. Well, we had to stay patient, Brian, but it really paid off in the end in spades as we got rewarded with a fantastic and exciting finish there at the end. But we're going to take a break here. We're going to come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Also on screen, we're going to have the upcoming races here on the Global Sim Racing channel. So don't go away and watch those to see what's coming up on here on GSRC. Welcome back to Mosport, also known as Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We haven't mentioned that yet today, actually. Well, it definitely was a strategy race where we had some dull periods where we didn't get a whole lot of on-track action, but when it came to the final moments, this race delivered and then some. And Tuan Tran definitely had it delivered for him. He won based on fuel strategy, and it's his maiden win in this series. Vincent Brame managed to come home in second with a great run. We didn't expect him to be so far up. Johan van den Belt took a last-minute splash and dash, but still came back on the podium with 30. He's 4 for 4 with his podium run. Pieris Kaki also with a great strategy call, but a mistake at the end cost him a potential podium and finished 4th. Johan Hallberg finished in 5th after he ran out of fuel and sputtered across the line. Wojciech Podazek came home in 6th, and then David Burns finished in 7th. Lauren Murray finished in 8th with Frederick Neptune also running out of fuel, and 9th, and Eric Lukel rounding out the top 10, Brian.
11th goes to Gregory Caritas. 12th goes to Adam Bradshaw. Sean Reese follows him up in 13th, and Daniel Hobling following up in 14th. Martin Tistra, I'm going to butcher that name again, in 15th. 16th went to Stefan Schmidt, followed by Struan Wilkie in 17th, Stephen Paul in 18th, and Bastian Hoosman in 19th, followed by Tony Hayes in 20th.
Then in 21st of our DNF drivers, Tony Hayes was one of those. Marcel Seidel in 21st, Daniel DeVos in 22nd, and we believed Steven Inskip did not start the race. He finished in 23rd. We have some interviews. First up from our podium, it's third place finisher Johan van den Belt, currently leading the championship. I'm not sure how that's going to change with Tuan Tran winning. Johan, you're 4 for 4. Unfortunately, you weren't on the top step this time. Looks like this was a fuel strategy race, and you elected to give yourself a splash and dash. At what point did you realize you're not going to make it to the end?
At the moment, after my second pit stop, I lost a lot of time to one. We came in behind each other in the pits, but I thought he underfueled himself a little bit because he was 4 seconds or something in front of me. So at that moment, I elected to try and fuel save. But after 10 laps of trying to fuel save a little, I saw like, nah, this is not going to work. So then I just floored it, tried to let the gap stay the same. And I hoped that one would try a one-stopper and run out of fuel, but I saw that he drove like really smart, like staying in the draft of Johan, and with that not being able to fuel save. But halfway through my second stint, I knew that I couldn't make it one stop, so I thought I'll come in a little bit earlier and maybe undercut a little bit, see if I can win a few seconds. But that didn't. I should have stayed outside in the end.
You also had that heart-stopping moment early in the race when you were in the popcorn position behind Hallberg and he almost lost it. Did you have to come in for a change of pants after that moment in Quebec?
No, I was fine. No, but it was close. I evaded, and that's a shame because I think it was Tuan who almost spun, and because of that we lost the gap to Johan, so Johan could drive away, and I'm impressed that Tuan managed to catch up to Johan in the end. But yeah, that was a shame because without that we could have had a freeway battle for the win or for the first position for a longer time.
Yeah, we were ruined that we weren't seeing a little more action in the middle of the race, but it paid off in the end. Congratulations on still keeping up your podium streak, and I'm guessing this keeps your championship hopes alive. Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, thank you. Happy with it. Bring on Suzuka.
All right. That was Johan the Van den Belt, finished in third place today here at Mosport. Up next, Brian is going to talk to Vincent Brame, our surprise second place finisher on today's race.
Vincent, you finished second today. Most of the race you were kind of running with your teammate in the 4th and the 5th range. Tell us about how you got up to second.
Well, it was a little bit of luck, I must say. Wojtek was really fast in the second stint, which meant I could only keep up in the draft, which meant I could fuel save. And I just made it on fuel. I sputtered across the finish line in the end.
Very nice. Now, what we were watching with you and Woltek is the swapping around coming on the Andretti straightaway. Were you guys bored? Was that a strategy play? Tell us about that.
It was more strategy. It played out that way. We were trying to keep up with the guys in front, which we couldn't. But the guys behind us were catching up, so we tried to work together to keep the gap even, and we made it to the end.
Sounds good. Any kind of final thoughts of the day? I think you guys are heading off to Suzuka next week. Anything that you're looking forward to for that? Or next race, not next week.
Not really. Suzuka is not one of my favorites. This one was, so I'm glad I did good this week. In 2 weeks, I don't think I'll be on the podium, I must say.
Never say never. We thought you guys were going to run out after you're going to be forced to make a two-stop, and a lot of you guys proved us wrong. So never say never. That was Vincent celebrating his second place, but we're going to send this back over to Joe, who was going to have our leader or our winner today.
Absolutely, and that was Tuan Tran, who took his maiden win. Finally, we've known he's had the speed since he showed up in the middle of last season, and finally it paid off with some brilliant strategy, holding on to the draft. We're assuming, Tuan, that you weren't attacking that whole final stint just to lift and get yourself to the end. How close was it? Oh, we're not hearing you, Tuan. Your mic might not be turned on right now. We can see your lights on, though. See if we can give Tuan a few moments to get his mic sorted out here. Definitely eager to talk to our first-time winner. It was an exciting race from our viewpoint, watching Tuan just hold back and then finally attack in the dying moments, and watching the fuel strategy pay off as he streaked away. There we can see him on screen in replay.
Hello?
There we go. Now we've got
guys hear me?
Tuan. Yep, we got you.
Hey guys. I got a little trouble with my mic.
So tell us about at the end of the race, that second stint going to the end. Were you intentionally lifting? Was that your plan from early on to try and save fuel to make it a single stopper?
Yes, I was trying to keep in the draft of Johan, and I almost had one lap left, so it came pretty good for me.
Now, earlier on, you had a huge moment coming through Quebec, and we talked to Johan van der Belt about his avoidance for you. Did you think that you had almost thrown the race away at that moment, or was it always under control?
Yeah, that turn was very hard for me the whole week, and every time I almost lost of spun a car there, and this time it almost happened, but I was lucky to catch it, or else my race was over.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about the feelings. It seems like you've been pushing for these wins for quite a while, and now that it's finally come, is it a relief, or you're already thinking more wins in the rest of the season?
Yes, so I was looking forward for this for my first win. So I think next couple of races I try to keep my pace, quick pace, and I hope I win some pole again and win some races. I don't know.
We'll see. This could get your championships hopes back in line in your fight to try and overtake Johan in the points. Thanks for talking to us, and congratulations once again on your first win.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
That was Tuan Tran, our winner here at Mosport, also known as Canadian Motorsports Park, in round 4 of the Absolute Beginners Formula Neagle Cup. It looks like he is our last driver in the interview booth, so we are going to close up today with a few thank yous before we go. Obviously, thank you to the organizers of the Absolute Beginners League. That's Tony Hayes and Dennis Neagle. And of course, thanks to iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio Technica, Behringer, and AverMedia. They are the software and hardware that we use to make our broadcast possible. Thanks to the team today, Amjad, Brian, and Dougie. If you like like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and our upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. Definitely get on social media and talk to us. We love interacting with our fans. A special thank you to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who both provide music for our broadcast. You can buy Eric's music on iTunes and Spotify, and Casey's at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com. Next race, as we mentioned, is going to be at Suzuka. That'll be Sunday, November 15th at 1:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have other upcoming races for other series on screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.